The Zarthan Dominion was one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy. Their ships were large and fast. Their soldiers wore dark armor and carried sharp weapons. They had taken many planets over the years. Some called them conquerors. Others called them monsters. But the Zarthans didn't care. They believed they were the strongest. They thought no one could stop them. One day the Zarthans made a choice. They captured 10 humans from Earth. These men were taken without warning. Some were taken from ships. Some were taken from space stations. Others were taken from their homes. They were grabbed, blindfolded, and dragged away. None of them had done anything wrong. They were not soldiers. They had no weapons. But the Zarthans didn't care about that either. The 10 human men were spread out across the stars. Each one was locked up on a different moon. These were not normal prisons. They were called detention moons. They were cold and hidden. No sunlight reached them. The walls were made of thick metal. The air smelled strange. The guards never spoke. The rules were never explained. The Zarthans had built these places so that no one could escape and no one could be found. One of the humans, Cole Brennar, was sent to a place called Facility 9. It was the most secret prison of them all. No map showed its location. It was buried under a red ocean on a lonely planet far from trade routes. This prison was different for one more reason. It was run only by female Zarthans. They were strict and silent. They wore silver suits and helmets with black visors. Their boots clicked on the floors as they walked. They never removed their helmets. Their voices came through small speakers, flat and cold. Cole had once been a shuttle pilot. He wasn't a hero or a fighter. He helped move supplies between planets. That was all. He liked quiet music and hot tea. He had a brother back on Earth who loved to build robots. He had an old dog named Rocket who waited at the door every night. But now Cole was locked away in a tiny cell. No windows, just one small light on the ceiling that flickered from time to time. He did not know where he was. He did not know why he was there. The Zarthans never told him anything. No questions, no answers, just orders. Stand, eat, sleep, walk. That was all they said. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Cole counted the scratches he made on the wall with his food tray. He counted the times the guards came and left. But the numbers didn't help. Every day felt the same. He missed the stars. He missed his brother's voice. He missed Rocket's wagging tail. Most of all, he missed being seen, not watched, not guarded, but truly seen. Back on Earth, no one had received a message. The ships that the Zarthans attacked had been reported lost. The stations had gone silent. Some believed there had been an accident. Others thought there were pirates. But deep down, some people began to worry. Something felt off. 10 people vanishing all at once was strange. Even in space, that didn't just happen. The Zarthans believed their actions would be forgotten. They thought the humans were too busy to notice. They believed Earth was weak and full of peace lovers. They believed humans would cry, write sad letters, and then move on. After all, the galaxy was full of noise and problems. Who would care about 10 lost men? But the Zarthans were wrong. The galaxy was always watching. Ships passed near borders. Traders shared stories at outposts. Soldiers heard rumors in old bars. And when someone spoke about human prisoners in hidden moons, ears started to listen more carefully. Whispers began to spread. Did you hear? A human was taken from his shuttle. They say there's a prison under the ocean. Only alien women guard it. Someone said 10 went missing all at once. 10, that's not a mistake. At first, no one could prove it. There were no recordings. The Zarthans were careful. They erased files. They changed logs. They paid off small-time smugglers to say nothing. But secrets are hard to keep, especially when the truth wants to be found. On Earth, people started noticing small things. A message sent by a missing pilot bounced back from an unknown location. A supply list from a station matched items found floating in deep space. Someone hacked into an old satellite and caught a glimpse of a Zarthan ship in an area it wasn't supposed to be. Bit by bit, the clues added up. And then someone found a name, Facility 9. It was buried in a forgotten data file from an old trade agreement. A tiny mention, just 2 words, but it was enough. People began to dig deeper. Scientists, hackers, former soldiers, people who loved the missing men. They did not cry, they did not scream, they worked. Quietly, carefully. They shared nothing with the press. They told no one who didn't need to know. They gathered facts. They drew maps. They listened for signals. They built a list. 10 names. 10 faces. 10 reasons to act. Still the Zarthans said nothing. In their minds, humans were not a threat. Earth was far away. The humans had no army close enough, no ships fast enough, no weapons strong enough. That's what the Zarthan leaders told each other during their big meetings in gold-colored rooms. They laughed and drank thick green drinks. They didn't know that something dangerous had already begun. Not a war, not yet, but something more dangerous than that. A promise. A quiet promise made by families, friends, and leaders. We will bring them home. Back in Facility 9, Cole Brennar sat on the edge of his bed. His beard had grown long. His hands were rough. His voice had grown quiet, used only to talk to himself. But something inside him had not broken. He still remembered the stars. He still dreamed about his brother. He still believed, even in the dark, that someone would come. Every now and then he saw things, strange things. The guards seemed nervous. Lights blinked faster. The food tray arrived late. One time the water stopped for a whole day. Another time the hallway lights turned blue instead of white. Small things. Most people would ignore them, but Cole noticed. And outside that prison, across many stars, more humans were starting to notice too. The galaxy had seen cruelty before, but there was something about this that felt different. 10 men. No charges, no trials, just silence. And silence, when forced, can turn into something sharp, something that cuts through fear and doubt, something that reaches hearts. People who had never cared before started to ask questions. A captain at a gas station paused his ship to run a scan. A nurse from Mars shared an old radio signal with a friend. A child who played with computers found a file and sent it to her teacher. No one shouted. No one panicked. They just moved, one small act at a time. That is how storms begin, not with thunder but with a breeze. The Zarthans had taken 10 human men and locked them away. They thought that would be the end, but instead they had lit a match. They didn't know it yet. They were too proud, too sure of their power. They thought they could hide their actions forever. But Earth remembered. And when Earth remembers, it does not forget. Not the names, not the faces, not the pain, not the silence. Earth does not move fast, but it always moves forward. And when it comes, it does not come alone. It brings everyone who believes in truth, in fairness, and in bringing their people home. The Zarthan Dominion had made a mistake. They thought no one would care. But they were wrong. The 10 human men who were taken by the Zarthans were not all famous. They were not kings, warriors, or heroes with shiny medals. Some were quiet people who liked simple things. Some were brave but didn't brag about it. Each one had a story. Each one mattered to someone. Cole Brennar, the man locked deep in Facility 9, had once flown small space shuttles between Earth and Mars. He wasn't the fastest pilot, he wasn't the strongest, but he was careful, he listened. He helped other crew members feel calm. People trusted Cole because he always did the right thing, even when it was hard. Back on Earth, Cole had a younger brother named Max. Max was a quiet boy who loved to build robots. The two brothers lived together after their parents died. Cole took care of Max, and Max looked up to Cole. Max once said, "Cole makes the stars feel safe." When Cole disappeared, Max stayed up all night, watching the sky, waiting for a message. Another man taken was Tomas Vyerly. Tomas worked in the gardens of Earth's largest space city, Skylight. He grew flowers, fruits, and trees in glass domes that floated above the clouds. Everyone in the city knew him as the man with green hands, because every plant he touched seemed to grow faster and brighter. What many didn't know was that Tomas had a sister named Sara Vyerly. Sara was one of Earth's top scientists. She worked in a secret lab and helped design machines that could clean poisoned water and fix broken ships. When she heard her brother had vanished, she left her job and started asking questions. She didn't speak to reporters or make loud speeches. She just opened her files, powered up her tools, and began looking. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just wanted her brother back. The third man, Malik Oran, had once been a soldier, but now he worked as a teacher in a quiet moon colony called Starbend. He taught kids how to solve problems, how to speak clearly, and how to think for themselves. His students loved him. They called him Mr. O. He made them laugh during math and let them draw in science. Malik had a big heart, and he had once saved a group of children during a storm when their air system failed. What the Zarthans didn't know was that Malik's best friend was Commander Hira Wynn, one of Earth's top space fleet leaders. She and Malik had trained together many years ago. They promised to always watch out for each other. When she heard he was missing, she didn't cry. She didn't wait. She started sending signals, calling in favors, and opening locked doors. Jude Kim was another man taken. Jude worked in the kitchens of a cargo ship that delivered food to small colonies. He loved to cook spicy noodles and sweet rolls. He didn't talk much, but he always smiled when someone said thank you. Jude had a daughter named Lanny. She was only 7 years old, but she was already very smart. Her mother had passed away, so Jude was raising her on his own. When he vanished, Lanny moved in with her aunt, but she never stopped asking about her father. Lanny kept a notebook filled with drawings of stars, rockets, and a little girl holding her father's hand. Each night she said a wish to the sky, hoping someone would bring him home. Another prisoner was Aaron Lewin. Aaron had once been an athlete. He could run faster than most people and jump like he had wings. After he hurt his leg, he stopped playing sports and started building tools. His best work was a machine that could lift heavy boxes using only soft air. Aaron had a cousin named Kira who worked with Earth's rescue teams. Kira flew into storms and pulled people out of collapsed buildings. She never asked for thanks. She just wanted to help. When she learned Aaron was missing, she told her team, "He gave up his dream to help others. Now it's my turn to help him." Next was Eli Desmond, a quiet man who fixed old machines on faraway planets. He was known for making broken things work again: radios, engines, even toy robots. Eli never asked for money. He just wanted to make things better. Eli was close to his neighbor, Mrs. Hanna, an old woman who once worked for Earth's intelligence service. No one knew that. She looked like a normal grandmother. But when she found out Eli was gone, she opened a locked box in her closet, pulled out her old badge, and made one call. That one call set off a wave of attention through old secret channels. Someone important had noticed. Another taken man was Davy Ronan. Davy was a miner. He worked underground on cold moons, pulling out valuable rocks and minerals. It was hard work, but Davy was proud. He wore a scarf that his daughter made and kept a photo of his wife in his helmet. Davy once saved a whole crew by fixing a broken tunnel wall with only a shovel and a piece of rope. What most people didn't know was that Davy's son, Theo, had joined Earth's space defense team. Theo had just passed his first big test when he got the news about his dad. He didn't cry. He went straight to the commanders and asked to be part of the mission that was starting to form. "I won't sit back," he said. "My dad wouldn't." Gavin Wells was different from the others. He was a musician. He traveled from planet to planet, playing songs on a strange blue instrument that looked like a harp but sounded like a river. People said his music could make you forget your pain. Gavin had a brother named Luca who worked on space farms and grew food in zero gravity. When Luca heard his brother had disappeared, he didn't know what to do at first. He had never been a fighter. But then he remembered all the people Gavin had helped through his music. So Luca started sending out messages. He told people about Gavin, about his kindness, about his songs. And slowly, more people started to listen. Nathan Rohn was a scientist, but not the kind who stayed in labs. He explored wild planets, studied strange animals, and slept under alien trees. He loved nature. He kept journals filled with drawings and notes. Nathan was engaged to a woman named Dr. Jace Lynn, who ran Earth's deep space research program. When she found out Nathan was missing, she sent out quiet signals to every explorer, every scout, every scientist with a ship. She didn't shout. She didn't panic. She simply said, "Find him," and they began to search. The last man, Leo Stark, had no family left. He lived alone on a space station and worked in the cargo department. He was kind, quiet, and careful. Most people never noticed him, but one person did. A boy named Milo whose parents worked on the same station. Leo had helped Milo with his homework, listened to his stories, and given him a small telescope. When Leo disappeared, Milo cried. But then he did something brave. He told his parents. They told others. Soon, many workers on the space station began to talk about the kind man who had vanished. They shared his name. They shared his story. Each of these 10 men had someone who loved them. Some had families. Some had friends. Some had helped strangers. But none of them were truly alone, and the people they had touched, through kindness, bravery, teaching, or friendship, were not willing to forget them. The Zarthans didn't know this. They thought they had taken just 10 humans, but they had taken far more than that. They had taken fathers, brothers, sons, friends, and teachers. They had taken kindness. They had taken stories. They had taken laughter. And in doing so, they had made a mistake. Because the people left behind were not weak, they were smart, they were skilled, and they were not going to sit still. Some began building networks. Others started watching stars. A few made quiet deals in the corners of space markets. And slowly, across planets and moons, those who cared began to connect. A silent chain started to form, linking one life to another, and each link made the chain stronger. The Zarthans had hurt the wrong people. They didn't just take 10 prisoners. They created 10 reasons for Earth to rise, 10 sparks that would light a fire, 10 names that would not be forgotten. Cole Tomas, Malik Jude, Aaron, Eli, Davy, Gavin, Nathan, Leo. Each name had a story. Each story had a voice. And soon those voices would grow loud. Because when humans care, they do not wait. They build. They move. They fight, not with hate, but with heart. And this was only the beginning. The galaxy didn't hear the humans' anger right away. There were no loud speeches. There were no bright battles. Everything was quiet. But something had begun to change. Slowly, silently, like the wind before a storm. A small ship called the Silver Whisper was the first to go missing. It had been flying between 2 moon stations, carrying a full load of food and tools. The ship disappeared without sending a signal. No one could find it. The Zarthans didn't worry. They thought it was just a mistake or a broken engine. Ships got lost sometimes. That's what they told themselves. But they were wrong. A week later, a fuel station near the edge of Zarthan space shut down without warning. All power turned off at the same time. Workers found their doors locked. Their screens showed only one message. You took 10. We remember. There was no voice, no face, just the words. Then everything went black. More strange things started happening. A supply center on the asteroid Belton 4 found its storage completely empty one morning. Nothing was broken. The locks weren't forced. But every box, every barrel, every container was gone. A single note was left behind, written in Earth's language. Balance must be restored. The Zarthan guards were confused. They didn't understand what it meant, but Earth knew. On a deep space relay tower, 2 Zarthan engineers tried to send a report about missing ships. Their messages wouldn't go through. The screens showed nothing but stars. Their system had been taken over. Somewhere in the code, someone had changed the language. It wasn't just a signal failure. It was a message, a quiet warning. Your systems are not safe. The Zarthans laughed at first. They thought these were silly tricks, a few humans messing with wires. They told each other it was no big deal. But in dark rooms, leaders started asking questions. Who's doing this? Why is it spreading? They didn't have answers. The humans said nothing, but they kept moving. A large transport ship called the Horizon Star found itself locked out of all ports. Every time it asked to land, the system said, "Permission denied." The ship floated in space for 3 days, running low on fuel and food. The crew began to panic. Then a signal came through, soft and clear. "Return what you stole or drift forever." The crew didn't know what to do. Their leaders told them to stay quiet, but fear had started to grow. On a small Zarthan planet used for training new soldiers, something very strange happened. All the power turned off for exactly 7 minutes. Guns wouldn't work, doors stayed shut, lights blinked in odd colors. When the power came back, nothing was damaged, nothing was missing. But every screen in the training center now had the same picture, 10 stars lined up in silence. No words, just stars, 10 stars for 10 missing humans. Some guards laughed and said, "It's just a game." But deep inside they knew it was. A freighter captain named Uanak told his crew to stop talking about the attacks. He said humans were weak. "They can't hurt us," he shouted. "They cry too much." That night his ship's engines turned on by themselves and flew straight into a junk field. The ship was destroyed. Luckily, the crew escaped in time. No one could explain what happened. But on the floating pieces of metal, someone found words burned into the surface. "You should have listened." One by one, the Zarthan system started to bend. Not break, just bend, like soft metal under strong hands. Some robots stopped listening to their commands. Some guards found their weapons empty when they needed them most. One guard opened his locker and found it filled with earth flowers. Another found a small toy robot on his bed that said, "We do not forget." These were not attacks to destroy. These were attacks to send a message. And the message was clear. A group of human scientists in a far-off lab had been working on something they called Project Echo. It was not a weapon, it was a program, one that could hide inside machines, watch everything, and wait. When the time was right, it would send back what it learned. Project Echo had been quietly placed in Zarthan systems months before. No one had noticed. Now it was speaking. It told Earth who the guards were, where they walked, what they ate, what codes they used, and Earth listened carefully. The humans didn't need big guns or fast ships. They had information. And in the galaxy, information is the sharpest weapon of all. At the same time, a small team of human engineers had built something new. Invisible drones that could fly into stations without being seen. These drones didn't carry bombs. They carried cameras, recorders, and tools that could change one screw or twist one wire without anyone knowing. These tiny helpers were sent into Zarthan prisons, outposts, and bases. They didn't fight. They watched. They learned. In one prison, a Zarthan guard found his keys missing. Later, he found them frozen inside a block of ice in the cafeteria freezer. No one knew how they got there. In another base, the loudspeaker turned on in the middle of the night and played soft earth music for 7 minutes. The guards didn't know the tune, but one of them said it made him feel sad. That guard quit the next day. Each small act was like a drop of water. Alone, it seemed like nothing, but together the drops became a storm. Earth wasn't just fighting back. Earth was waking up. On a planet called Rasova 9, a Zarthan training ground was covered with strange shapes one morning. The shapes were made of dust, drawn across the landing pad. A human child's drawing. 10 people holding hands under stars. One guard tried to wipe it away. The dust would not move. A fuel center shut down after all its computers filled with pictures of the 10 missing men. Not sad pictures, strong pictures, pictures of them smiling, helping, building. One worker looked at the screen and whispered, "They weren't soldiers." Another said, "No, but they were still dangerous." The biggest surprise came when an entire Zarthan cargo fleet turned around and went home. The leader of that fleet said she didn't want to be part of this anymore. "I've read the files," she told her crew. "We made a mistake. They're not just humans, they're people, and they're not alone." She was removed from her job, but her words were heard. Back on Earth, people were watching all of this. Not everyone knew what was happening, but those who did were taking notes. Each move was part of something larger, a pattern, a quiet storm. The leaders on Earth did not speak to the galaxy yet. They did not send threats, but they knew one thing for sure. The Zarthans had started something they could not stop. Because the humans were not trying to destroy. They were trying to remember, trying to bring their people home. And when humans try to bring someone home, they do not stop. Every small act, the missing ship, the silent outpost, the frozen keys, the soft music, was like a voice saying, "We're still here, and we see what you did." Earth had not forgotten the 10 men. Their families had not stopped hoping. Their friends had not stopped searching. Their names were now whispered across stars. Cole Tomas, Malik Jude, Aaron, Eli, Davy, Gavin, Nathan, Leo. They were not lost. They were not gone. They were waiting. And Earth was coming. At first, the leaders of the Zarthan Empire did not take the missing ships and quiet signals seriously. They thought the problems were small and would go away. They believed humans could not cause real trouble. After all, Earth was far away. Earth had fewer ships. Earth had fewer colonies. To the Zarthans, humans were new, young, and easy to control. But then reports started piling up. A small room deep inside the Zarthan war base held thousands of screens. Each one showed a planet, ship, or station. A few Zarthan officers sat there every day watching the galaxy. Most days were quiet, but not now. Red lights blinked more often. Sounds of alerts filled the air. One officer leaned closer to a screen and said, "This can't be right. That's the third station this week." At first, other officers thought it was a glitch, maybe a computer bug. But then another screen showed a ship floating with no power. Another screen showed a cargo ship turned around with no reason. A training center had locked all its doors without being touched. This was not normal. Something was wrong. Captain Uxil, a high-ranking leader in the Empire, noticed the changes. He had fought in many battles and seen many tricks, but this was different. It was not an attack with guns or bombs. It was slow. It was quiet, and it was everywhere. He called a meeting with his top officers. They sat around a round table inside a large metal room. The walls were dark. The air felt cold. Each officer held a folder with strange reports, missing drones, failed computers, lost data, and confused workers. Uxil looked at them and said, "This is not an accident. Someone is doing this on purpose." The room fell silent. A young officer named Drano cleared his throat. "Sir, it might be humans." Uxil raised one eyebrow. "Humans, they don't have the tools for this." Drano nodded. "That's what we thought, but they do. They're not using big weapons, they're using knowledge." The room grew even quieter. They had always seen humans as loud, weak, and emotional. But this did not look like weakness. It looked like planning. Careful, patient, smart planning. One station had lost its power for only 11 minutes, but during those minutes, 10 files went missing. Those files held maps of prison routes, guard schedules, and food deliveries. That was not a mistake. That was a message. Another officer stood up. One of our mining colonies just reported their money records were changed. Every worker was paid double. They don't know how. It's like someone walked in and rewrote the system without being seen. Uxil frowned. That would require special access. No one outside our empire has that. Drano replied, someone does now. The Zarthans finally started to worry. It was no longer just broken tools or locked doors. The attacks followed a pattern. That meant someone had a plan. The humans were not trying to take over planets or destroy fleets. They were looking for something, or someone. The officers began connecting the dots. One by one, they looked at the list of problems. The same places were being touched, places connected to prisons, guards, or transport routes. A few reports showed strange messages in Earth's language. 10 lost, 10 remembered. Some officers didn't know what it meant, but Uxil did. He stood up, walked to the screen, and typed in a code. A picture of 10 human men appeared. Each had a name, a face, a short file. These were the 10 humans taken from a small research ship many months ago. They were captured, taken away, and placed in different prisons across the empire. No one had ever talked about them since. They were meant to be forgotten. But they were. One of the officers whispered, "They're doing all this for 10 people." Uxil stared at the pictures. "No, they're doing this because we hurt 10 people." Across the empire, other leaders began to notice the same pattern. In a high tower on the planet Kravax, Supreme Commander Malnava read the reports. He had always thought humans were weak because they cared too much. But now he saw something different. Humans were not soft. They were loyal, loyal in a way that scared him. "They don't leave anyone behind," he said out loud. "Even if it takes them years, they'll come back." One of his assistants asked, "Should we prepare for war?" Malnava shook his head. "This is not war, this is worse. This is revenge with patience." Meanwhile, more strange things kept happening. At a prison on Zorth Prime, guards found their food deliveries missing. No one saw anyone enter, but everything was gone. In place of the food was a box. Inside the box were 10 bracelets. Each one had the name of a missing human. The bracelets were made of earth metal, cold, silver, and smooth. The guards grew afraid. At a research station, a scientist found her files erased. All her work from the last 6 months was gone. In the place of her files was a single image, a human hand holding a flame. Under it were the words, "Justice grows quietly." She tried to delete the image. It would not go away. The fear grew stronger. Some Zarthan workers stopped going to work. Others stayed up late, afraid their systems would turn against them. One security officer found her weapon melted. Another found a note in her pocket that said, "You watched it happen." She didn't know how the note got there. High Leader Zernak called a private council meeting. He was one of the oldest leaders in the empire. He had ruled for over 30 years. He did not like surprises. He especially did not like feeling weak. In the meeting, he slammed his hand on the table. "Who is helping them?" he shouted. "No one can do this without help." One of the advisors spoke softly. "They don't need help, they have each other, and they're angry." Zernek did not like that answer. He ordered more guards at every prison. He told engineers to check every system. He made new rules for ships and stations. No one could enter or leave without a full search. He called these safety steps. But deep down, he knew what they really were. They were signs of fear. Everywhere the Zarthans looked, they saw Earth's shadow. Not a large army, but small hands, quiet moves, smart plans. Humans had become invisible in the worst way, not because they were hiding, but because they had already arrived. The Zarthans just hadn't seen it. In the middle of this growing fear, something strange happened. A small message was sent to every Zarthan leader. No one knew where it came from. The message was only 6 words long. "You forgot them. We never will." Some leaders deleted the message. Others saved it. One wrote it down on paper and placed it in his jacket pocket. He read it every day because he knew it was true. The humans hadn't given up. They hadn't moved on. They were coming back. And the Zarthans had no idea how to stop them. Inside the prisons, guards became more watchful. Some prisoners were moved. Others were questioned, but nothing helped. Because no matter what they did, things still went wrong. One night at the all-female prison on the planet Veltra 5, the lights went out. Not for 1 minute, not for 10, but for exactly 1 hour. When they came back, nothing seemed broken. No one was missing, but every camera had been turned off. Every computer had been restarted. And one guard found a flower in her helmet, a flower that only grows on Earth. As she screamed, the warden asked who planted it. No one knew, but the message was clear: "We're already here." From that day on, the guards on Veltra 5 started to whisper about the human in their cells. He didn't talk much. He didn't fight. But some of them believed he was the reason for the quiet attacks. They thought maybe he was the link, the key, the one who kept the place from falling apart or blowing up. He was just one man, but maybe that was all Earth needed. Across the Empire, other leaders began to prepare for something worse. They didn't know what the humans would do next, but they knew something was coming. Not loud, not fast, but strong, steady, like the sea. They began to realize a deep truth. Humans were not weak. They were not soft. They were dangerous in the way fire is dangerous when it's quiet. The Zarthans started to worry, not because humans were attacking, but because humans hadn't even started yet.